We are here with the wonderful Nicole Yarling. Thank you for being here.
Well, thanks for inviting me.
It's amazing. So I guess we'll start from the beginning. Just if you could tell us a little bit about where you're from, where you grew up, childhood.
I was born in a little shack. No, I'm kidding. I'm from Brooklyn, New York. Born and raised. I went to school in New York. Where do I start? I guess when I got to college, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I guess I'd always done music all my life, but then I met a bunch of crazy people in college. And they were jazz musicians, and they kind of took me to my first jam session. And I went it was in the Bronx, where a bunch of famous jazz musicians lived. And I went with an acoustic violin to a teeny-weeny club with an organ trio. And I'm sawing away on an acoustic violin. And I think I got the bug for jazz then. But I grew up playing. My dad played piano and always had records around the house, listened to all kinds of music. And so that's, I guess, where it started.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you had like an earliest musical memory that you can, remember. It was just kind of always around in the house.
Always around. And it was funny. One of my favorite stories is my dad had a Dexter Gordon album, and the album was called Daddy Plays the Horn. And I'm a terrible artist, but I would sit and listen to the record and try to draw the picture that was on the front cover. And it's funny because I never really listened to jazz music with the mindset of, oh, this is really hip and cool, because I like the Beatles and I like Motown and everything else. But years and years later, which is really strange, I was able to sing the solos on the recordings. And it wasn't like, because like I said, I guess I soaked this stuff up like a sponge. And it wasn't intentional. It was just, I liked the music. My dad played jazz and, so... But like I said, I loved everything and listened to all kinds of music. So,
you said your dad played piano?
He played piano and organ.
And organ,
yeah,
wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Was that just he played around? Was he professional or more
semi-professional?
Yeah.
He did gigs and stuff, but he had a day job. He had a family to support, so he had a day job. So
then you went to school in New York.
Yeah, I actually went to Baruch, and that's what I said. I met all of these musicians in Baruch, and I wasn't really sure. I didn't have a lot of guidance, right? So I had no idea what I was going to do. But then I got the music bug, When I graduated from Baruch, I said, okay, now what am I going to do with this? So I said, maybe I'll get a degree in education. Just, something to fall back on, as they say. And all the while I was studying, going to jam sessions, learning from people. I received mentorship when I didn't know what mentorship was. I got my degree, and then I put it away for a long time.
The education degree?
Yes. I just put it away. I got it because I was the first person in my family to graduate. And I graduated early. I skipped a grade. I think I had my master's when I was 20. Was I 21 or 22?
Wow.
And then it was like, I like school. I was kind of nerdy. But I put the degree away. I said, all right, it's done. Maybe I'll get back to it. And then I just kind of lived life. I moved down here. I started playing in bands.
So when was that, the move to Miami?
In 1980.
So
and
what prompted that?
A man. It's the truth, Mm-hmm. He's a musician, and actually he's teaching here. We're no longer married, but we're very good friends, and we still work together. But I started learning. I was learning I guess most of my education was about jazz. Right? But I came down here, and there was a band which I think you're going to talk to Graham, called Fat Chance Blues Band. And I actually, it's kind of bizarre, but that's where I really learned about the blues, from them. And I started playing. I had to learn. Even though I grew up listening to all of this music, actually I had to learn mechanically how to play that music. And then I fell in love with that music. We had a band. That's a long story for another day. And we traveled a lot. We traveled to Europe and played festivals and clubs, and I was writing for that band, and a lot of good things happened as a result of that band.
Okay, so that was 1980, 80s.
Yeah, in the mid to late 80s. Yeah. And it was funny because, all right, so we go, our first trip, this was great. Our first trip, we get a band in a van. We're traveling around Norway. We started when the weather was beautiful and the fjords were green, and we stayed. I think we traveled from maybe late August or early September to December, playing mostly mid to southern Norway in a van. It was fun until it snowed. And then then we came home. This agent booked us at a festival in Denmark. And I'm figuring, the clubs are playing are small. And so my very first big festival was 19,000 people. And it was the most amazing thing because, when I'm in a small group of people, it's a little, I'm a little bit more nervous in a small group. There you could go boo. And everybody would go, ah. Well, I had on this dress. There's a classic picture that maybe I should give you a copy of. I had on this little dress, and I'm playing and singing. And the photographers were all taking pictures. And my picture wound up on the front cover of the Danish, the biggest newspaper in Denmark.
Oh my God, wow.
So it was hilarious. And people, all the photographers followed me around that summer because they were all trying to get that shot again.
Yeah.
Nobody was able to do it. So that was fun and exciting for me, and I didn't think much of it, you know, at the time. It's just we had a great time traveling through. That trip, we traveled through Scandinavia, every place except Finland. And it was really cool. We went back. That's after the winter trip. We went back in the summer. And so I saw the Northern Lights for the first time. It's like 10 o'clock at night, and the sun is shining. It's bizarre. Yeah, and then it comes back up at 2, So really, really interesting and fun.
Yeah. So was that primarily the blues that you were playing in Scandinavia? Touring that music?
Yeah.
Wow, that's
blues and blues rock and stuff that I wrote. So that was fun.
And there was an interest there. And
oh, yeah.
That's
very, very big interest in American blues and American music, period, but really blues and soul and R&B.
Wow, that's fascinating. Well, that's amazing. So that was through the 80s with, what was the name of that band?
By the way, Graham Drought gave the band a name.
Oh, okay.
Little Nicky and the Slicks. I couldn't have come up with that name.
So you're Little Nicky.
I was Little Nicky. Now I'm medium-sized Nicky, but I was Little Nicky. Yes.
And the Slicks.
Yeah.
Wow. And
fun
that's
band.
Touring around Scandinavia.
We recorded
Europe.
And had some success, It was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Wow. That's amazing. So that was through the 80s in Miami, where all those musicians in that band were Miami-based.
Yeah. Actually, they were members of Fat Chance Blues Band, and I kind of borrowed them.
Yeah.
Graham will tell you that.
Yeah.
I borrowed them, and we started this other band, and it was successful. It was a very popular band in the area for a long time.
Wow.
So.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear about the prevalence of the blues in Miami, because I think that a lot of people now wouldn't think that at all. You think
exactly.
Blues, New Orleans, Memphis or Chicago, New York, but Miami
No.
even having a blues scene at all.
Miami also had a very vibrant, I guess, R&B and soul community with people like Betty Wright
Right.
and Joey Gilmore.
Yeah, yeah.
And Deep City Blues.
Deep City,
all
yeah.
of that stuff. And disco as well. And people don't think of Miami.
Well, the
but
Miami
TK
Sound
Records.
Machine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, no, TK Records with Henry Stone.
Yeah, yeah.
Excuse me. Betty was a part of that. George McRae, Rock Your Baby. Then there was the Caribbean stuff. There was a band called Miami. A lot of these people, there was a whole scene here of soul stuff and TK Records. TK Records was kind of instrumental with, like I said, disco. You think of Casey and the Sunshine Band, and all of those bands came out of Miami. So Miami had a scene. It had a really good scene.
No, I remember I have a musicology class this semester, American Popular Music with Dr. Butler, and we watched a documentary on Deep City. So I saw just bits of, it's only like 40 minutes, but how that came about, and with Henry Stone, and he wanted them to be a part of TK, but then one of the guys wasn't into it. And yeah.
Well, you need to watch. I have another video or another documentary you need to watch called The Record Man. A friend of mine made, Mark Morman, and that's about TK Records and about Henry Stone, who was loved and not so loved by a whole lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he broke James Brown's first record here in not too far from where I live, which really is an interesting story.
Yeah.
So.
Wow. I wouldn't have expected that. Yeah. So that sort of, that blues scene sort of just came naturally from all of that, Deep City and TK. And so it was always kind of here.
And I forgot to mention Overtown. That's very, very important because Miami was very segregated. And you had to, technically, almost like South Africa, you had to have a card, an ID card at one point. I'm still trying to find a copy of one. You had to have an ID card to be on Miami Beach after a certain hour. Most of the African-American people or Caribbean people that were on the beach were service people.
Yeah.
And they were maids, they worked in the hotels or whatever. And then after a certain period. But the irony is you had very famous African-American people that could entertain in the big hotels but couldn't stay at the hotels. So they wound up in Liberty City and they wound up in Overtown.
Right.
Sam Cooke, there's a very famous recording of Sam Cooke, Harlem Square. There's a club called Harlem Square. There's a live recording. Unbelievable. So.
And that was in Overtown.
Yes.
Yeah. No, they talked about that a little bit in the no, that's okay. In the documentary about Deep City as well, how Overtown was just this hub for black music in particular, and it was thriving. So that was, I was, because now coming here, you don't see that so much.
No.
I mean,
No.
they talk about how 95 kind of cut
That's
right
exactly.
through.
Well, it parallels what happened in the 70s in the Bronx, because the Bronx kind of was the home for hip hop. The very beginnings of hip hop. The DJ Kool Herc is considered the godfather of hip hop.
Right.
Right. But that all happened in the Bronx, and the Bronx. I took a trip up to the Bronx once, and it was. Landlords had the property that was like, totally, basically a wasteland. Mm-hmm. And people would set these properties on fire to collect insurance money at one point because they had built I can't think of the name of the community, a bunch of housing projects nearby.
Yeah.
And the Bronx, the South Bronx became they built a highway through it, and it just became a wasteland of sorts. But out of that wasteland, resourceful people came up with the idea of hip hop, which was basically came from Jamaica. You know,
Yeah.
the big open yards, courtyards where they'd have the sound clashes and stuff.
Yeah.
DJ Kool Herc was from Jamaica.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And you know, he played his sister's party or something in the very beginning, and that's they consider
Right.
one of the first.
The first instance of hip hop. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
and
her
I'm
like.
from Brooklyn, so we had our own DJs. and
Yeah.
stuff, so.
You're right. Yeah, because I always thought that was interesting how, because I think is it this year is the 50th anniversary of hip hop, right? And it's attributed to that party that DJ Herc did for his sister's like back to school party.
Yeah,
Which I always thought it was funny that it's like that's when hip hop started. And I would imagine that there was a lot of other similar things happening at the same time.
it just came to me. The DJ that I remember in New York, let's hope anyway, is DJ Flowers.
DJ Flowers. Okay.
Yes, and he played while all of this was going on. You know, I remember I snuck out on an Easter Sunday to this place in Brooklyn with my friends, and we went to this big disco. It was basically a big box. My mom came and got me too. Okay, but DJ Flowers was he was the equivalent of DJ Kool Herc and the other, you know, well-known DJs. But I think he fell on hard times and stuff. And so he's kind of obscured who he was. But he was an important DJ in the
That era
series.
as well. Yeah, that's interesting how that can happen, who history remembers and whatnot. Because I was talking about this with Dr. Butler as well. It's like, was it really just one party where hip hop started?
No.
No, right.
No. And it's funny because there was a whole scene in Brooklyn. There was a scene, you know, in the other boroughs. But that's, you know, the pivotal point, or that's the point that everybody talks about.
Right.
But
For some
there was
reason
stuff happening at the same time.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay, so back to Miami. So I'm curious how the Joe Williams connection came about. So you did that record with him, right?
Well, yeah, I did. And it's funny. I mean, even, the Jimmy Buffett thing happened. Well, we'll talk about that another time. But, all right. So it's kind of a weird story. I did Art Deco for years, the Art Deco Festival. And just historically, it would be the coldest weekend in Miami, like 40 degrees. And I remember one year we were out, and we were playing jazz quartet, and it was freezing, and a few people would come and stand in front of us and go, yay, and then they'd go back and watch us from inside where it was warm. But we said we should record. And the bass player, his name was Jeff Grubbs, is now with the Pittsburgh Symphony. He was just getting ready to leave. Great bass player, wonderful guy. Dave Siegel, John Yarling, and myself. And so we went into the studio before he left, and we recorded. And I had this friend named Joe. What was Joe's last name? Oh, God, it just escaped my brain. It'll come back to me. Joe said, I have a friend. And Joe played vibes. He played vibes with, it'll come to me before we finish, but he played vibes with, now I can't, I'm really having a senior moment right now. Very famous jazz pianist. It'll come to me. All of this will come back to me. Anyway, he said, I have a friend. And everybody has a friend.
Sure.
All right. If you ever record, I waited 10 years from when he told me that. And he said, oh, and he was real gruff. Joe, it's going to bug me now. I'll think of it if I have to Google it. Anyway. Oh, God, I'm trying to think of his name. It's driving me crazy. It'll come back. Anyway, so he said, I have this friend. Okay. So I sent him this stuff. He sent it to his friend. His friend's name was John Levy. And now there's two John Levys. There's a John Levy that actually worked with Billie Holiday. No. Yeah, he worked with Billie Holiday too. I forgot that. Interesting. Anyway, I had the good John Levy. John was a manager for Joe Williams and Nancy Wilson and a slew of other people. And he was the first African-American manager in jazz.
Wow. Okay.
And so he liked what he heard, and he said, I'm going to introduce you to Joe. Now, here's the weirdest story. I was playing a little club on Miami Beach, and a friend of mine, his name was Simon Sauls, had another friend, and they used to show these videos at this club all the time. And at the time, I didn't even realize it. I'm having a conversation during the break, and I'm looking over, talking to somebody and looking over their shoulder at the screen. And it was Peggy Lee, Joe Williams, it might have been Ella, 4 or 5 people. Mm-hmm. And I looked, and whoever I was talking to, I said, I wish that was me. Right? Almost a year to that day, not kidding, Joe was performing on the west coast of Florida. John Levy invited me over, and I was at this, it was a weird gig, but I performed with Joe Williams. And he liked me, and I liked him. So we set up this recording, ironically, in Pittsburgh. And Jeff just happened to have the day off. So it was the same group. And we recorded this live recording at the Manchester Craftsmen's Guild.
Yeah.
Okay. George Shearing was the pianist, right? That's who. John Levy also played bass. He played with Steph Smith, the violinist, and he played with Billie Holiday when she got out of prison.
Oh, wow.
At the Carnegie Hall concert.
Yeah.
And so we did this concert at Manchester's Craftsmen's Guild. It was 2 days, live recording. And the idea was I was supposed to go on the road with Joe. He was going to introduce me on his gigs, and then I go back and do his circuit. Well, he passed away. And it was sad the way it happened. I wrote about this, but still unpublished. But I went to his funeral in Las Vegas. He lived in Las Vegas. And all of his famous friends were there, Robert Goulet and Nancy Wilson and all these people. Anyway, this guy gets up and he says, and I didn't know this, he said, Joe, when Joe left the Basie band, Count Basie took the day off and rode the train to Boston to introduce Joe on his first solo gig. And the marquee read, in very small letters, Count Basie presents, and in big letters, Joe Williams. Well, that's the way the CD read. Joe Williams in small letters and my name large. Yeah. And I'm sitting in Vegas in a room full of hundreds of people, and I just started crying like a baby.
Wow.
Because I didn't know that he, took that kind of interest in me. He could have done it for anybody else. Mm-hmm. So I cried. I waited actually a couple of years, and then I went to his wife and John Levy, and I said, can I write a book about Joe? Because I thought I'd have the opportunity to get to know him. Mm-hmm. And they gave me their blessing. So I started interviewing people. A lot of them passed away. George Shearing was hilarious. He passed away. And Lou Rawls. I interviewed Bill Cosby.
Really?
Yeah, it was an interesting interview.
Wow.
He's actually, with all the stuff that people say about him, he's a very smart, astute, well thought out guy. Mm-hmm. All of the other stuff, it happened before.
Right.
That's neither here nor there. Just a bunch of his friends and stuff. And it was a really interesting process for me. The book is still unpublished, and there's a lot of stuff that goes with that story. But in the process of doing this, I realized, and I mentioned earlier about mentorship, I realized how important it is for, whatever you get from other people, that you give it away. Mm. All right? And that's part of the reason why I'm here at Frost.
Yeah.
And
doing this right now. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's very important for you to keep what you have. You have to give it away. You have to share with younger people, impart what you learn. It's the best feeling in the world. It really, really is.
Well, that's sort of always been the history of our species in a way, is that, we tell stories and they're shared, and before the written word, that's how we imparted information. So that's always, I feel like that's kind of in our DNA a little bit.
Very, to me, it's very important, and that's how you create legacy, and that's how you keep music alive and the arts, period, by sharing. So
Oh yeah, yeah. That's all the like coincidences or cosmic kind of hands in that Joe Williams story is fascinating.
well, the Jimmy Buffett story is even stranger.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about Jimmy Buffett, because you mentioned that. So did you get to know him before you knew Joe?
Well, here's what happened. See what happened was, I was working. Remember, I told you I had this band, Little Nicky and the Slicks, and we traveled a bunch, but we also played, and we played in Key West. And so one night we were playing at the Reach, which is a resort down there, and this guy comes in. Now, mind you, I don't know Jimmy Buffett from Jimmy Carter.
Yeah.
I have no idea who this guy is, right? I'm relatively new in Florida. So this guy comes in, and he comes in with his, beautiful wife and everything, and he kind of sits at the bar. Some things happen. I think he was in a party mood. So he came and he left. He came back, not partied, I'll say, the Sunday, and he sat in with us and played.
Wow.
All right?
Oh my God.
And we were kind of niceties and everything, went our separate ways. So I was at a Heat game, and I sang the anthem.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, and he just happened to be at the Heat game. So he said to me, hey, would you be interested in, going on the road with me? And I'm like, I still don't know who he is. I have no idea who he is. Oh, okay. He said, well, I have a couple options. You could either be in my band, or you could be in Fingers Taylor. Fingers Taylor was a harmonica player. He had that tour. He had a group called the Lady Fingers. Really good musicians, all female. Anyway, so we met for lunch on the beach, and we talked more about this. And I said, yeah, okay, I'll play in your band. I still don't know. It was funny. To me, it was hilarious.
Yeah.
So I get all of the stuff, the itinerary and everything, and we fly out to San Diego. I think that's where we hubbed out of it first. We were rehearsing there. I met, was it Madonna's background singer? Yeah, just a bunch of people, all these people in the studio. I'm like, oh, okay, this is pretty cool. I didn't know until I got on the stage how big a deal he was. I looked out at the audience, and I'm not kidding, because I was a background singer in a cute little costume, and played violin and went, ooh, ah. And I looked out, and I was like, oh my God. It took me back to that 19,000 people.
Yeah.
It was like that.
It was like that.
And really cool gig. I mean, we traveled, first class air, hotels, 5-star hotels. I never had to lift anything. If I didn't want to tune my violin, there was a guy on the side, It was a great gig. It really was. And I met a bunch of really cool people. And yeah, it's just, he's a phenomenon. He was a phenomena. Just like the Deadheads, there were Parrot Heads. And these were adults. They traveled around. I have tons of pictures and stuff in weird costumes, and beach balls, and they knew all the words to all the songs, and there were doctors and lawyers and Indian chiefs and the whole thing. So he had a really big following, and generational too.
Yeah.
So that was fun.
So what year would that have been in the 80s?
It had to be, was it the late 80s or early 90s? I think it was early 90s.
Okay.
Somewhere around there.
So at that point, he was already Jimmy Buffett.
Oh my God, yeah. By the time I was in the band, he was already, he had the ginormous following that I didn't know he had because I didn't even know who he was. And that's the truth, And so, yeah, it was an absolutely cool experience. It really was.
So you just were in his band for that tour?
No. I did, I think, 3 tours, and maybe, what did I do? 2 recordings, maybe 2 or 3 recordings.
And is that what is that, a platinum sales award for?
Yeah,
you're on that recording there.
We all got that. The Buffett's Boats, Beaches, Bars, and Ballads. We all got the platinum record for that. And I wrote some stuff, co-wrote some stuff with Amy Lee, who was a saxophone player who graduated from here as well.
Oh, really?
We wrote some stuff. John Lovell, saxophone, trumpet player, is also in. He was in the band until Jimmy passed. He graduated from here. Yeah, and several people from here. Tom Mitchell was in the band. One of the greatest pan players in the world, Robert Greenidge, in the band. It was an incredible band. So.
Yeah.
Very good musicians, and I enjoyed myself.
Yeah, that's so funny that you didn't even know who he was.
Yeah, I had no idea. I was like, oh, who?
Well, that could have been how you got the gig, because you weren't crazy or whatever. It's like,
Well, that goes with my Joni Mitchell story.
Yeah, did you take that photo there?
Well, that was in New Orleans.
That was in New Orleans.
Yeah, and we're in New Orleans, and we were doing a benefit, and Irma Thomas was performing, and Joni Mitchell and Jimmy and a bunch of other people, and so the girls were all very excited. Oh, we get to sing background with Joni Mitchell. I'm like, now, I knew who Joni Mitchell was,
right,
of course. But I didn't have the crazy, gaga
the fandom,
thing about.
Yeah.
So at one point, there was a song called Cherokee Louise, and one of her recordings that I just absolutely fell in love with the first time I heard it. And so she's sitting there's no one else around. She's sitting way at the other end of the tent, and I'm down there. So I walked up to her and, hi, I wanted to ask you about, and we started talking, and we talked for about 20 minutes. Nobody else is around. And it was like really, really comfortable. And it was like 2 musicians talking,
right,
and so really, really wonderful woman. Really, really cool.
Wow.
So
yeah, that's incredible. Just a bend
and to
your
me,
ear
it's the best way to meet musicians.
Sure, right.
When you're they feel more like a peer than you're doing the.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Fanning out. Yeah, she was able to be relaxed.
Yeah.
And just chat.
Way cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Did you see? She just released that live record from Newport Folk Festival.
No, I haven't.
Yeah, it's from last year, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Because, she hadn't performed in a while, and she had some health issues, and Brandy Carlisle sort of, because I think it was during COVID that they would do these Joni jams, where she would just invite people over to her house.
Wow.
And people like, older guys like, Neil Young or whatever, but also like Harry Styles would go to her house.
That is so cool.
And they would do jams, and then that sort of turned into, let's put this on. And so they did it at Newport Folk Festival last year, and it was just like Joni and Brandy in the middle, and around them all these different musicians. And they would come in and play songs with her, and she would sing, and they were all sort of backing her up. And
that's amazing.
And they just released it a couple months ago. It's a great record.
I'm going to make it a point to get a copy of it. She also is a visual artist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She did a lot of her album covers.
Yeah.
She designed them. Yeah.
So.
No, she's incredible. Yeah. Okay. So we talked about Jimmy Buffett. Oh, can we see that the magazine with your picture in there?
It's funny. I was in the store today and I saw that, and I there was another one, and I was in, I'm in Publix, and I'm in line, and I said, the magazines are there, and you kill time, and you look at that's me, ooh, and you kill time. So I'm I'm standing there. I said, there's no way. It was so long ago. There's no way I'm going to be in this magazine. So I'm standing there in line and I'm turning the pages and I get towards the back and I go, ooh, that's me. So that's really, really cool. It's like I had a button years and years ago. I might have got it from Graham. I don't know who I did. It said, I'm nearly famous. So it's really, really nice to be documented, in something like that. So
Yeah, that's like that. I know Letterman used to do a segment. I think it was called A Brush with Greatness, where people would be like, "Oh, I stood next to Jimmy Buffett at the urinal in the bathroom. And, like I almost met him." Yeah.
No, those kind of things happen. I mean, my another brush with greatness was when I was younger. I consider myself a songwriter, and I will always be a songwriter. When I was young, I went to the Brill Building. The Brill Building before it's the Brill Building where they won't let you in. So I used to go up because my dad had a friend in the Brill Building. So I would go and I'd play bad piano because I play bad piano. I'd go and play my songs for him. And he'd copy music for me and everything and tell me stories about. And I didn't really know who he was. Well, his name was Phil Medley. And he's one of the co-writers of Twist and Shout.
Oh, my God.
And I mean, but that's when you could walk into the Brill Building, and the Brill Building was kind of diagonally across from where Birdland used to be, the famous Birdland.
Yeah.
It was a great, it's still there, a great record store on the corner called Colony Records.
It's still there.
Huh?
It's still there?
It's still there,
Wow.
but I think, of course, well, vinyl's making a comeback, but
It
not.
is,
And
yeah.
I would go in and look at the records I couldn't afford. They'd had all these collectors, and collections. Very, very cool area in New York. But the Brill Building was open, and I went back years later. I have a friend that lives in Delray who's a songwriter. He wrote "Lipstick on Your Collar." Lipstick on your collar.
Yeah.
He's got to be on the backside of 80, heading towards 90. He wrote other songs. He wrote for Elvis. He wrote for Barbara Streisand.
Wow.
And he wrote for the Platters and the Coats. Anyway. So I worked with him here. We did gigs around, and he would play all of his songs, and a cool little show. So I went back to New York for some other reason, a conference or something, and I walked by the Brill Building. I went, oh, my God, here I am again. So I go in and I'm talking to the guard at the gate and I'm telling him all these stories. And I said, can I go in? No. That was the end of that. I mean, but I took pictures of the outside and everything.
Yeah.
And so
That's amazing you got to go in, though, at one point and just happened to be playing for the guy who wrote Twist and Shout. No big deal. Yeah.
Well, that's like where Tin Pan Alley moved to.
Yeah,
one
right.
of the buildings. And they had rooms where there were these ginormous, like, bins of sheet music that you could buy for a quarter, 50 cents. But those were the rooms, much later when you're teaching about it and you're talking about it, those were the rooms that they had sectioned off for people to write songs. The name Tin Pan Alley came from the clamor of the pianos.
Right.
So it was just a really interesting time, so.
So you were like a young kid doing that, going to the Brill Building.
I'd take the train up. I would also take the train. My dad worked across the street from the Apollo Theater.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. So I'd get some money from him and I'd go watch some bad movies and I'd get to see a stage show, sit in front. James Brown was in the audience once.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, so it's just like, I was surrounded by all kinds of incredible musical experiences all my life. So.
Wow. Okay. So, we talked about. I think we hit everything on my list. Are there any last words of wisdom? We were talking about imparting.
Yeah.
So
Well, I mean, teaching here at the school, and the school is great for a lot of things, but the school is great for the music industry. I think it's really important for people like myself who has actually lived a lot of this stuff to be able to share stories with students. I have a great story for you. Another great story.
great.
I was doing a gig in Coconut Grove. And you can use this or not use this, but I was doing a gig in Coconut Grove and with a guitar friend of mine, actually the guy that played on...
Come to My Love?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So we're doing a duo, and we had just come back from Europe, and that trip didn't go that well. So we were kind of soured on Germany especially. So this guy walks up to us on a break, and he says, "Hello." This is me doing a German accent. "Hello, my name is Alex, and I'm a producer. Can you sing like Martha Wash?" I looked at him, I went, sure. I can't sing like Martha Wash. Do you know who Martha Wash is?
I don't think so.
I'll tell you about her in a minute. So he says, "I'd like to fly you to Germany and have you perform," making myself laugh, record some songs. And I'm like, yeah, right. It's one of, another yeah, right moment. So he took my information, and this has gone back a few years. So we were still using fax machines. So I gave him my information. He faxed me back, told me how much he would pay me, gave me the information for the tickets and everything. So I said, well, I guess this is happening. So very long story short, I fly to Hamburg. There's this little A-frame house. I go in. There's a piano in the room. It's wired into a bigger house behind, right? Okay. They have all of this, supposedly the Fairlight that Michael Jackson used and all this stuff. Okay. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of weird. Anyway, so I record, I don't know, and I have the music around here somewhere, but I record maybe 8 or 10 songs, something like that. And he goes, this one song, I'm listening to it, and I'll sing the melody. Da 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 da. And I'm like, I looked up at him. I said, "If you're lost and you can look and you will," and he just kind of smiled. The song is called Heaven. All right, so I record these songs. He says, "Okay," so they paid me in U.S. dollars in cash. Okay. I put the money in my boot. He says, "If any of these songs hit, we'll give you additional money." Oh, okay. Now, I did this in a day and a half, and I really didn't think they were great. No, not awful, but just nothing. Sure. Right? So I come home, and my ex says to me, "Did you ever check Billboard to see if any of those songs hit?" No, because I didn't think they would. So I pick up Billboard magazine. If you lost, you can look. It's called... That song charted in several countries.
Wow.
In the top 10. Mm-hmm. I'll show you. I think I have it here if I don't. Anyway.
That's the song that was the same melody as Time After Time.
Can you say copyright infringement? So, song charted. Cyndi Lauper's people reached out. And Cyndi Lauper later on is listed as, co-author. Yeah. Because she was going to sue. Yeah. Song already hit. They made a lot of money. So I called them up. "Hey, I see that the song charted. Okay, we'll give you the money." They gave me the money. I said, "Come back and do more." So I went back. The next lot of things didn't do so well. But that album, all right, so I'm there. I don't know if I saw it before. Maybe I saw it before I went back. because I thought it was going to be like club music and they were going to play it in the club.
Mm.
They had a dancer lip sync. I can show you the video. Had her lip sync to me.
That's awesome.
Really? So I go back and I meet the dancer. And she said, I hope they never ask me to sing because I'm a dancer. I don't sing. Right? She said, are you upset? I'm like, well, I might be if I lived in Hamburg. But no, I made money and I walked away. So I mentioned Martha Wash because CNC Music Factory, everybody dance now.
Yeah.
That's Martha Wash's voice.
Oh, okay.
But the person in the video is about as big as my finger, right? And
I
so
see. Okay.
she was the voice of, there was a guy named Sylvester who was a disco star, and they're 2 Tons of Fun. It's Raining Men.
Uh-huh.
It's Raining Men.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
Martha Wash. Right?
Okay.
Great vocalist, session singer, sang on a bunch of stuff. But she sued and won. Right? I didn't have that leverage at the time, and I didn't even think about it. So, and this guy made boatloads of money and had other people sing the song. And I'll show you the videos online. There's a bunch. The songs had like over 1 million views, and it's old now, but so when I mentioned that story because I tell the students the story.
Yeah.
Just because people will take advantage. This business is, you have to be thick-skinned.
Right.
You really do.
Yeah.
If you love what you do, just keep doing it. But beware. That's why I said the school is great because they educate students about the business.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have gone through their lives not getting what they deserve simply because they didn't know. And no one will tell you unless you ask.
Yeah.
So that's the big takeaway is just really educate yourself, be the best that you can be of who you are. Don't try to be anybody else, try to be yourself.
Right.
Remain true to what you believe, but also you don't have to walk around and be cautious, but you should make it a point to learn as much as you can about the business. So,
Yeah. That also brings me to a question that I had, because I know that it's changed a lot, but what are the main things that you see have changed from when you were kind of getting into the business and to now?
I think a lot of younger people are learning to be learning business savvy.
Yeah.
And that's so important. That is probably the biggest thing to me. I mean, nowadays you can sit in your bedroom and become, an internet star. But even with that, it's very, very important that you understand how to market yourself, how to protect yourself, and just learn as much as you can about music. I know now you can go on and make something without ever really being a musician. And I'm not mad at those people.
Sure. Yeah.
I would never be mad at them. It's, to me, it's still creating something.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
But just be aware and understand the difference.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know, and those kind of things are important to me. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we're good. That was great. It's here. What time is it? 3:57, October 2nd. Gray Miami day. Nicole Yarling, Jay, doing the sound in the back.
Jay's the man.
Yeah. Thank you for doing this.
Oh, thank you for having me.
No. It's a huge pleasure for me to be able to do this. So thank you.
You're one of my favorite people. So.
Oh, you're one of mine.
There goes.
stand tall, but you could knock me down, shatter all my pieces, release this endless shrieking sound. Could you do that? Throw a rock inside, watch it all collide as you see me floundering, surrounded by the sound of our goodbye. You are a monarch, migrating, taken by the sky, fly by or flutter, clutter every inch of my mind. Can you do that? Flicker like a light, give me hope, but why? As you see me floundering, surrounded by the sound of our goodbye. I can't stand this. I can barely bear it. I feel like I'll explode, ready to implode. I am ticking, ticking boom. It's my impending doom, my ever nearing tomb. I am not ready to boom. Just give me a little room. We are fading, degrading, a burnt out photograph. Can you see that? I'm a glass house, I'm a glass house.
Where you want to be.
ABS and we made